Hey there, friend. Before we wander too far into the shadows of history tonight, I want you to take a deep breath. Let your shoulders drop and allow your thoughts to settle. Like dust after a long journey, you're safe here. And tonight, you'll fall asleep, not to silence, but to the quiet march of the Mongols, a sound that once shook the earth, but now only whispers through time. If you enjoy drifting between history and dreams, well, maybe hit subscribe. No pressure, only if you truly like the way I tell stories. So tell me, where are you listening from tonight? Your bed, the couch, maybe the passenger seat of a car on a late drive. Wherever you are, you're part of the story now. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. It begins not with thunder, but with stillness. A moonlit plain in the heart of Asia, where every blade of grass hides the echo of hooves. You stand there, breath misting in the cold air as a shadow on horseback approaches. Slow, steady, patient. He doesn't speak, but somehow you know his name, Temujin, a man who would become Genghis Khan, the storm that rewrote the map of the world. And yet, every storm ends. And the Mongols who once devoured empires would one day choke on their own victory. But that's later. For now, you simply watch the wind carry his banner, black against the stars, and feel the strange comfort of knowing you're about to witness greatness just before it forgets how to survive. Kinda like checking your work email at 3 a.m. You know it's power, but also the beginning of your downfall. The wind doesn't sleep out here. It hums across the endless grass, brushing your face like an old friend who never learned to say goodbye. The stars stretch forever, sharp, cold, and indifferent. Yet somehow, they feel like witnesses. They've seen everything. The rise of tribes, the fall of kings, and the quiet birth of a storm named Temujin. You hear it first, not a roar but a whisper, a chant, low voices in the dark, men binding their fates together beneath the open sky. No temples, no gold, no walls. Only a shared hunger, and the smell of horse sweat and raw milk. It's funny. The Mongols built the largest empire on earth, but they never really built anything. No marble palaces, no great cathedrals, just tents, wind, and willpower. Minimalism before it was trendy. You kneel beside the fire, watching a young Temujin carve a piece of dried meat with calm precision. His eyes, dark, unreadable, catch the flames like a mirror. He says nothing, but every move of his hand speaks. It says, "Control the small before you command the vast." A truth few conquerors ever learn. You glance around. The camp hums with the quiet rhythm of survival. Mothers stirring milk tea, boys brushing horses, warriors polishing arrows under a bruised sky. It's not glory yet, just motion, the kind that makes history inevitable. And somewhere in the back of your mind you realise the world doesn't begin with empires. It begins with someone cold, hungry, and tired enough to change everything. Kind of like deciding to go to the gym at 6 a.m. You don't know it yet, but the pain is about to rewrite your life. So tonight, as the steppe breathes around you, you tighten your cloak, taste the smoke on your lips, and whisper to yourself, this is where it begins. You wake to the sound of metal, not the clash of swords, but the clinking of chains, cold iron against skin. The fire's gone out, the sky pale and empty, and you realise you're not free anymore. Temujin isn't either. Once, he was the son of a minor chieftain, a boy who believed loyalty was stronger than hunger. Now he's bound, wrists tied, dignity stripped, betrayed by the very people who once called him brother. That's the steppe's first law. Family feeds you, and family destroys you. You watch as he's dragged through the dirt by his former allies, each step tearing the illusion of friendship apart. The wind carries laughter, cruel, careless, the kind only men with temporary power can afford. Temujin doesn't curse them. He doesn't beg. He only stares, the way fire stares back at you when you think it's dying. In the distance, children chase a ragged goat, unaware they're watching a man who'll one day hold the world by its throat. You can smell the blood and rust on your tongue, the way fear has a taste, metallic, bitter, unforgettable. And beneath it all, there's something else, a silence that feels almost patient. That's the moment he learns the truth every ruler must swallow. Power isn't taken by rage. It's grown like frost, slow, quiet, inevitable. You know, kind of like how your phone battery dies right when you need GPS. A reminder that control is an illusion until you rebuild it yourself. Days pass. Temujin, still chained, watches the sun rise and fall like an executioner counting. But one night, under a sky that never runs out of stars, a boy sneaks into the camp, a friend from his past, trembling but loyal. The boy cuts the rope, the chains fall, and for the first time in a long time, Temujin breathes without permission. You do too. The step opens before you again, vast, empty, forgiving in its own brutal way. You taste freedom, but it's no longer sweet. It's sharp. Like the edge of a blade you know you'll one day have to use. You ride again, this time not as prey, but as the storm gathering its first thunder. The wind smells of smoke and fermented milk. You sit by the fire again, this time not as a prisoner, but as a man reborn from iron and betrayal. Across from you sits Jamuka, your childhood friend, your equal, and one day, your enemy. For now, though, the world still feels small enough for trust. The night wraps around you both like a shared secret. Jamuka laughs, tossing a bone into the flames. "Brothers forever," he says, and you nod, feeling the words press into your chest like a brand. You drink from the same bowl, mare's milk sharp with smoke, and cut your palms with the same knife. Your blood drips together into the earth, dark and warm. The steppe accepts it without a word. It's seen oaths before. It knows how easily they break. You look at Jamuka, his grin wide, his eyes bright with ambition. He talks about uniting the tribes, about riding across mountains, about power that bends the horizon. His voice is honeyed, but beneath it you hear thunder. And you say nothing. Because you know the wind changes faster than promises. Funny thing about brotherhood, it always feels eternal, right up until someone wants the same throne. You both ride out under a sky the colour of cold iron, your horse's breath rising like ghosts. The grass bends beneath you, whispering secrets neither of you are ready to hear. For now, you ride side by side, two men with one dream and one mistake, believing loyalty could survive power. The fire behind you fades, and with it, the warmth of the last honest night on the steppe. The sky has changed. It no longer feels like silk. It feels like stone. The air tastes of iron, of dust, of something waiting to break. You can sense it. The rhythm beneath the steppe shifting, as if the earth itself holds its breath. Temujin and Jamuka, brothers once, now called to the same men with different songs. One promises tradition, the other destiny. You ride through camps that once shared fires, now divided by banners fluttering in the same wind. Every tent whispers a different truth. Every warrior sharpens his blade for someone he used to laugh with. That's how civil wars begin. Not with enemies, but with mirrors. At dawn, the two forces gather on opposite ridges. The steppe is silent. Even the horses seem to understand that something sacred is about to die. Temujin sits tall, cloak rippling like a dark tide. Jamuka's army stretches across the horizon. More men, more colours, more noise. But noise isn't power, discipline is, and Temujin has learned silence well. The first arrows rise, a sound like tearing cloth. The wind carries them farther than prayer, and suddenly the world splits in two. You smell blood before you see it. You taste the dust before you feel it. And you realise the empire to come will be built not on loyalty, but on the ruins of friendship. You know, history's funny. We call it progress when it's just heartbreak with better branding. When the battle ends, the steppe burns. Smoke crawls across the sky, turning stars into ghosts. Temujin doesn't celebrate. He just watches the horizon, expression unreadable, and whispers to no one in particular, "Never again shall I be weak." You hear it, and maybe quietly you say it too. The smoke has thinned. The air smells of ash and rain. You stand among broken spears, listening to the silence that follows history's first roar. Temujin rides slowly through the aftermath, his cloak heavy with dust, his eyes steady, not proud, not cruel, just awake. Around him, the tribes kneel, not out of love, but out of the quiet recognition that something larger than themselves has survived the storm. They call him Khan. No, not just a Khan. The Khan. The wolf of the steppe. You can almost hear the title settle over him, like fur drawn over iron. He says little. Power, he's learned, speaks best in stillness. And so he raises his hand, not to bless, but to command the wind itself to move with him. And somehow it does. You feel it too. The pull of something inevitable. The beginning of order born from chaos. The smell of empire before anyone knows the word for it. It's strange, isn't it? Humans can barely agree on dinner plans, but give them one strong voice, and suddenly they'll march across continents. Temujin begins to rebuild the world, one tribe, one oath, one enemy at a time. He takes broken men and makes them brothers again, not by blood, but by rule. He replaces the old chains of kinship with new ones of loyalty. For the first time, the steppe begins to hum with unity. A sound low and endless, like wolves calling across the night. You look around and realise this isn't peace, it's discipline disguised as calm. The stars overhead flicker, as if uncertain whether to bless this new world or hide from it. And you, sitting in that cold wind, watching the birth of a power no one yet understands and can't help but whisper, "Here it begins again." You wake to a quiet morning. The air is sharp, and the horizon stretches endlessly, as if the world itself is waiting for instructions. Temujin stands before his people, not as a conqueror now, but as an architect. He has won power. Now he must shape it. And so, beneath the pale blue sky, he speaks of something the steppe has never known. Law. No more chaos of tribes fighting tribes. No more sons killing fathers for horses or women. Every warrior, every family, will now live under one code, the yasa. It is harsh, unforgiving, and yet strangely fair. If you steal, you die. If you lie, you die. If you betray your brother, you wish you'd died sooner. But here's the strange part. People love it, because for the first time, everyone knows where they stand. You can almost feel it, the collective exhale of thousands of souls finally living inside a shape that won't crumble overnight. Temujin walks among them, his voice low, his tone calm. He isn't loud. He doesn't need to be. His words fall like snow, cold, pure, absolute. It's funny, isn't it? Civilization always begins with someone saying maybe we should stop stabbing each other for a week. The yasa spreads across the land like frost creeping over water, silent, unstoppable. Soon, even the winds seem to whisper in rhythm. Order, discipline, fear. And yet, there's something beautiful about it. The way chaos gives birth to symmetry. The way men who once roamed like storms now move like a single heartbeat. You ride alongside them, feeling the quiet strength of belonging to something vast. Not gentle, but certain. A certainty so strong it almost feels holy. Somewhere deep inside, a thought flickers. Freedom without law is just another kind of cage. Temujin looks east, toward the rising sun, toward the lands he has yet to tame, and smiles the way only kings do, like someone who already owns tomorrow. The morning air tastes of iron and dew. You can feel it, that strange tension before something enormous moves, the kind of silence that belongs to mountains before they decide to fall. Temujin stands at the crest of a hill. Below him, thousands of horsemen shimmer like a restless tide, their armour catching the light, their breath turning to mist. For years he has forged unity. Now unity demands purpose. He looks west to land soft with rivers and grain, where kings sleep too comfortably in stone halls. And he decides it's time to wake them. The command rides out, a single cry that ripples across the plain. Ride. You ride too, of course, because in this world no one stays behind. The earth trembles under the hooves, and the wind fills your ears like drums made of sky. There's no alarm clock like 10,000 Mongols galloping toward your kingdom, right? Villages burn, yes, but not senselessly. Temujin's war is a kind of art. Every strike is calculated, every city taken, catalogued. Even the ashes have order now. Messengers fly like arrows ahead of the army, offering surrender in the name of peace and destruction in the name of mercy. It's brutal, but efficient, the kind of efficiency that terrifies and fascinates in equal measure. You see, to Temujin, conquest isn't cruelty, it's geometry. Each line of attack, each route of retreat, all drawn like perfect circles expanding from a single centre, him. And the strange part, the world begins to bend to that pattern. Old empires crumble, not because they are weak, but because they have forgotten how to move, while Temujin's riders move like breath itself, invisible until it's too late. Smoke trails behind you. The horizon burns orange, the colour of both dawn and destruction. And amidst the thunder of hooves, you hear something deeper, a hum, a rhythm that says this is more than conquest. This is destiny finding its voice. The night smells of smoke and sweat. You sit beside the embers of what was once a city. The ground is warm, too warm from the ashes of its walls. The Mongol army rests in silence. No songs, no laughter, just the sound of armour cooling, like metal remembering what it used to be. Temujin stands alone by the fire, eyes fixed on the horizon, where flames still dance in the distance. He has conquered everything he could see. And yet, there's a strange stillness inside him, like a man who reached the end of a map only to realise there's nothing drawn beyond. You can almost hear his thoughts. Is this glory? Or just noise? A boy brings him water, trembling. Temujin takes it gently, thanks him softly. Then, as the boy leaves, he murmurs to no one, "They all think fire is loyal." You look around, the world has grown quiet again. But this time it's not peace, it's exhaustion disguised as silence. You see the soldiers, some counting loot, some staring at nothing. They've won so much they no longer know what enough feels like. Soft chuckle, almost pitying. Funny thing about victory, it never tells you when to stop. In one corner, a captured scribe from Khwarezm is ordered to record every conquest, every city burned. He asks timidly, "How should I name this one?" Temujin answers without looking up, "Don't name it, it won't last." For the first time, you sense it. A hairline crack beneath the iron order. Small, almost invisible, but it's there. Because even fire, when fed too long, forgets what it's burning for. The wind shifts, carrying the smell of scorched wheat. Sweet, bitter, human. You close your eyes. It clings to you the way history always does. It begins quietly, as all endings do, Not with battle cries, but with whispers. They slip between tents at night, woven into the wind that once carried victory. Now that same wind carries something else. Doubt. You hear it while tending your horse. They say the Khan no longer sleeps. He stares into the fire too long. They say the gods have grown silent. At first you laugh. Soldiers always talk. But then the laughter fades, because every whisper carries the weight of something true. Temujin rides less now. He spends his nights alone, poring over maps not to conquer, but to remember where he's already been. His generals, once brothers, now measure his moods like astrologers reading storms. Subtle things, a delayed nod, a missing smile, and suddenly alliances shift. You notice it in the camps, the way conversations stop when someone walks by, the way wine is shared too carefully. Even laughter feels rehearsed. Funny, isn't it? The same men who faced armies without fear now tremble at a rumour's shadow. One night, a rider comes from the west, half dead, bleeding, whispering about rebellion among conquered lands. Temujin listens, says nothing. Only his jaw tightens. Later, as the camp sleeps, you see him step outside, face turned toward the stars. He whispers something, a prayer maybe, or a challenge to the sky itself. The wind answers, but not in words, just a low, shifting sigh, as if the world itself is too tired to reply. And in that sigh, you feel it, the first tremor of what's to come, because empires never fall in battle. They fall in silence. You remember when the circle was whole, when brothers sat shoulder to shoulder, passing a bowl of fermented mare's milk, laughing like gods who feared nothing. Now, that same bowl sits untouched, half full, like a promise no one dares to finish. The Khan calls a council. The great generals gather. Ugade, Chagatai, Tolui, Jebe, Subutai, names once sung in victory songs, now weighted by silence. They sit in a round tent, a perfect circle, meant to symbolize unity. But the circle is broken long before the first word is spoken. The air feels heavy. Even the fire crackles too loudly, as if embarrassed by its own noise. Temujin speaks softly, his voice low, measured. He talks of disobedience and distant lands, of rebellion, of sons forgetting their father's shadow. His eyes move slowly around the tent and stop, just for a heartbeat, on his eldest son. Chagatai meets that gaze, and in that small, silent moment, you feel the empire tilt. No sword drawn, no word spoken, very fast as something cracks. Funny, isn't it? You can conquer half the world, but you can't keep peace at the dinner table. Later, when the council ends, you walk past their tents. Whispers again, but this time sharper. Each one cuts. Chagatai says the Khan grows weak. Ugade drinks too much. Tolui dreams of the throne. You try to laugh it off, but the laughter sounds brittle, like glass ready to shatter. Outside, the sky bruises purple. Thunder rumbles across the plains, far but coming closer. And you realise, this storm isn't in the heavens, it's in the hearts of men. When you look back at the camp, torches flicker like watchful eyes. The circle, once made of firelight and loyalty, has fractured, and no one dares admit it. History loves to call this political tension, but you know better. It's heartbreak, the kind only brothers can give each other. And somewhere, beneath that dark Mongolian sky, the whisper of the wind carries a single, tired question. What happens when the sons of the wolf turn on their father? The storm comes without warning, not of sand or rain, but of silence. You wake to find the world muted, covered in white. The plains that once sang with hooves and war cries now lie still, as if the sky itself has forgotten how to breathe. The Khan rides through the snow. His fur cloak whips behind him. His horse snorts steam like a dragon half asleep. No sound but the crunch of ice and that low, empty hum that creeps into the bones. The shamans say the gods no longer answer. Their fires burn low, their omens fade. The sacred drum, once echoing across the steppe, now sounds hollow, like beating on a grave. You watch them try anyway. Smoke, chanting, blood offerings. Nothing. Even the sky seems deaf. You know it's bad when the men who once feared nothing start fearing the quiet. One night a strange light flickers in the north. Green, pale, cold. The aurora dances like ghosts waving farewell. Someone whispers, "The spirits are leaving." Temujin stands before the fire, his eyes reflecting that ghostly light. For the first time he looks small, a man, not a legend. He speaks to no one, but the silence around him feels alive, pressing, listening, and then he kneels. You almost don't recognize him. A wolf howls in the distance, one voice, lonely, breaking, and the snow answers, swallowing the sound. You remember the old stories, when the wolf mother gave birth to the first Mongol. Now her children wander the ice, wondering if the gods who once rode beside them have finally gone home. And in that stillness, you feel it, the beginning of loss. Not of land, but of meaning. Empires don't die from hunger or battle, they fade when heaven stops listening. Faith doesn't vanish all at once, it fades, like smoke from a dying flame. You notice it first in the eyes, the way soldiers stop looking up when they speak of the Khan, the way prayers turn short, murmured, more out of habit than hope. The shamans, once revered, now whisper to new spirits. Foreign gods are the ones carried in by merchants, their idols small enough to hide in the palm of a hand. One day you see a young warrior, barely 20, kneeling not before the ancestral fire but before a carved cross hidden under his cloak. When he sees you, he freezes, then smiles, ashamed, as if caught cheating on the gods. It seems even faith, like empire, can be tempted by trade. Temujin senses it. You can see it in the way he walks, slower now, as if each step carries the weight of prayers unanswered. He gathers his generals again, but their words no longer flow like rivers. Each man speaks as if guarding something, their loyalty now a currency, not a vow. At night you find him sitting alone, his hand hovering over the map, but not touching it. The world once fit beneath his palm. Now, even the parchment feels too heavy. He asks quietly, "Tell me, when did they stop believing?" You have no answer, because maybe it wasn't them. Maybe it was the sky, closing its eyes. Outside, the snow has turned to ash. The air smells faintly of iron and smoke, not from war, but from hearts burning out. And there's a strange calm in that ruin, as if everyone knows. Belief was the last thing keeping them warm. You think about tomorrow, and for the first time it feels far away. Empires are built on faith, not walls, and tonight both are crumbling. It happens quietly at first, a missing patrol, a delayed message, a night where torches go out too soon. You think it's nothing, but then the silence grows teeth. Rumours become orders, whispers become banners, and suddenly there's no single us anymore. Two fires burn on the same plain tonight, one flying the Khan's black standard, the other marked with the red wolf of rebellion. From above, it might look beautiful, two constellations flickering in the snow. But down here you can smell the iron, the fear, the quiet decision each man must make. Nothing tests friendship quite like choosing who gets to stab you first. In the Khan's camp the mood is thick. No songs, no boasting. Even the horses seem to understand something's changed. They snort softly, restless, their hooves tapping like nervous hearts. Temujin sits by the fire, his face hidden in shadow. He says only one thing. If the sons of the wolf must fight, then let the strongest carry the name. No roar, no rage, just that. and the wind carries it away like a curse. You remember the first time you saw him, a storm made flesh. Now he looks like the calm before one. At dawn, the snow turns pink, not from sunrise, but from what's about to happen. Men sharpen blades in silence. Old friends avoid each other's eyes, and somewhere deep inside you realise history isn't written by heroes. It's written by those who survive the heartbreak. You check your sword, you tie the strap tighter. Because today you are no longer a witness, you're part of the breaking line. At dawn, the plain lies white, a world too pure for what's about to happen. The sun hasn't yet climbed over the hills, but the two armies already face each other, their breath turning to ghosts in the cold air. You stand in the middle of it all, the stillness before collision, the moment history takes a breath. On one side, Temujin's banner flaps lazily, the black wolf head staring into the void. On the other, the red wolf grins, fangs bared, its cloth stiff with frost and pride. For a heartbeat, you wish they'd both turn away, laugh, and say this was just a test. But then someone coughs, a horse stamps, and the first arrow flies. You ever notice how history always starts with someone too nervous to stay still? The sound that follows isn't a roar, it's tearing, like the earth itself splitting. The snow drinks greedily, the air fills with steam and iron. You move without thinking, cut, block, breathe, the rhythm as old as fear itself. Somewhere nearby you glimpse Temujin, his sword a flash of silver and red. He doesn't shout commands, he simply moves, and the army follows, as if drawn by gravity. Opposite him, Jamuka, the once brother, now the mirror. His eyes burn not with hatred, but sorrow sharpened into resolve. They don't rush each other, they just find each other. Two wolves circling in the blizzard, each knowing only one will walk away. If Destiny had a soundtrack, this would be the quiet part before the drop. A sudden gust, a sword meets another, and for a moment you swear the sky flinches. When it's over, the snow is no longer white, it's streaked with memory, and as the wind rises again, it carries the faintest sound. Not of victory, but of something breaking beyond repair. You stand there, trembling, not from cold, from knowing that this was the moment the Mongols stopped being one people. Voice slows, softens. You brush the snow from your gloves, look around at the faces, brothers, friends, ghosts, and wonder how many of them you'll remember when the snow melts. By evening the snow has melted in patches. The white turned grey, the grey turned red, and finally everything just blends into brown silence. You walk slowly through what used to be a camp, spears half buried, banners fallen and frozen to the mud. The air tastes like smoke and iron, like history trying to swallow its own tongue. No songs, no cheers, only the soft crackle of what used to be wood, and sometimes the faint groan of what used to be men. Temujin stands alone, his shadow long in the amber dusk. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to, because every survivor already knows what his silence means. The problem with being the last man standing is that there's no one left to clap. A horse limps by, its reins dragging, its breath steaming weakly. You reach out, touch its mane, still warm, still alive, and for a brief, foolish moment, you wish you could just ride away, leave the legend behind. But you stay, because deep down, you know this isn't the end of a war, it's the start of an empire. Around the camp, the survivors move like ghosts, not rebuilding, not celebrating, just collecting what's left. A coin, a piece of fur, a friend's ring, slipped quietly into a pouch. The night grows colder, but the fire burns low, and in its flicker, Temujin's eyes catch the light. They're not the eyes of a victor, they're the eyes of someone who's realised that power is just another kind of loneliness. You sit beside the fire, close enough to feel its heat, far enough to avoid its smoke. You wonder, If brotherhood can burn, what hope does love have? The stars come out, unbothered, beautiful. They don't care who won. They've seen too many kings rise and vanish to remember names. You lie back, the ground cold beneath you. The wind hums over the plain like a lullaby for the lost, and somewhere inside you realise this is how empires are born, not from victory, but from silence that refuses to die. Days pass. The snow melts. The wounds scab, but the air still tastes of ash. The men who remain no longer march. They drift, through plains of grass returning to life, through valleys that remember what silence feels like, and somewhere among them you walk too. Not as a soldier anymore, but as a shadow with a heartbeat. Temujin rides at the front, silent, his eyes scanning the horizon like he's searching for something the world owes him. Every few nights you hear him rise before dawn, walk out alone and speak softly to the wind. You can't make out the words, but the tone is old, older than grief, older than victory. If you've ever whispered to yourself in the dark, trying to convince your heart it still beats, you'd understand. One night you follow him. The moon paints the steps silver. Temujin kneels by a riverbank, hands dipped in cold water. He whispers something, a name, maybe, and the wind answers back. It's low, but you hear it. The long, mournful howl of a wolf, rising from nowhere, rolling over the plains like a ghost remembering how to sing. Temujin lifts his head, and for the first time in weeks his face isn't hard. It's listening. You feel it too, that strange pull in your chest like something ancient waking up. You almost expect a pack of wolves to emerge and start taking attendance. Instead, only the wind stays, but now it hums with purpose. Temujin returns to camp at dawn, eyes burning with quiet fire. He calls the men together. This war, he says, was not the end. It was the voice of the wolf reminding us we are meant to hunt together. The men look at each other, tired, scarred, but something flickers there. Belief, fragile but alive. You realise the empire won't be built by the sword alone. It'll be built by the echo of something older, the call that binds one heart to another. And as the wind moves through the grass, it sounds almost like words, soft, endless, calling your name. The plains breathe differently now, not with the thunder of hooves, but with the rhythm of restraint. You watch as men move silently, poles straightened, tents arranged, fires fed, every gesture precise, every look measured. Temujin walks among them, not as a king, but as a quiet conductor of a symphony of survival. No one speaks unless necessary. Even laughter is soft, like a secret between friends who survive the storm. You notice how power tastes when it's earned in silence. Not shouted, not demanded, but recognised in every careful movement. The old rivalries linger, but now they're buried under necessity. Trust, fragile as ice, begins to form again. You follow the routines, water drawn, horses brushed, weapons cleaned. Each act feels sacred, as if the act itself restores some invisible thread between man and man. Temujin stops at the edge of the camp. The wind carries a faint scent. Pine, snow, earth. He closes his eyes. You realise he's listening, not to voices, but to the weight of the silence itself. And in that silence, you hear it too. The heartbeat of an empire being born. Slow, deliberate, inevitable. You straighten your shoulders, let the quiet sink in and feel part of something larger than fear, larger than loss. Stars appear slowly, watching silently over the plains. They do not cheer, they do not judge, they simply are. And as you lie down, the cold pressed against your back, the wind hums softly like a lullaby of patience, of endurance and of quiet strength. Each day brings small movements, each gesture a stitch in a tapestry unseen. You help prepare a tent, your fingers numbed by the cold but steady. A boy hands you a cup of water, and you notice the careful way he doesn't spill a drop. Somewhere a blacksmith hammers quietly. Each strike echoes, not loud, but deliberate. A rhythm that seems to say, "We are rebuilding one heartbeat at a time." Temujin walks through the camp, observing without interruption. He nods to the smallest acts. A folded blanket, a cleaned blade, a whispered word of encouragement. It's funny how empires start. Not with war cries, but with tiny threads of care. The survivors are beginning to trust each other again, not because they forget the past, but because they understand the power of a shared silence, a shared effort. You join a group, carrying supplies. Each step, each gesture feels sacred. Even laughter returns, careful, almost shy, as if daring not to break the fragile pattern. The wind carries scents of smoke, earth, and pine. The plains feel alive, not with war, but with intent. The sky, wide and unchanging, seems to watch silently. Temujin stands on a small rise, hands behind his back, listening. He doesn't speak, but the way he looks over the camp says more than words ever could. We are together, and together we will endure. You lie back on the grass, watching the stars twinkle above. Each light a thread, and together they form something larger than any single life. The Empire is not yet visible. It doesn't roar. It doesn't demand attention. It whispers, softly, persistently, patiently. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The plains are quiet. The fires are low. You walk slowly through the camp, tracing paths you know by memory. The men are asleep, horses resting, and even the wind seems to soften its voice. You remember the echoes, the howl of the wolf, the clash of swords, the whisper of snow melting into ash. They feel distant now, like a dream that fades when the morning comes. And in that distance you find a strange comfort. Temujin sits by the last glowing embers, watching the stars appear. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. His presence alone reminds you. Everything that was, everything that will be, is connected. You stretch your hands, feel the cool air on your skin, and take a slow, deep breath. The world feels vast, but you are part of it, and it is part of you. The wind hums over the steppe, softly, endlessly. It carries memories and hopes alike, and you let it carry you too. Close your eyes. Feel the grass under your fingers, the faint warmth of a dying fire, the rhythm of your own heartbeat mingling with the quiet of history. And as your breath slows, the plains, the stars, the echoes of wolves and men fold gently into a lullaby for your mind. The story has ended. But the journey continues quietly, in dreams and in the soft hum of the wind around you.